This isn't the first time Justice Iacobucci has done a report on the Canadian government and torture. Nearly 2 years ago, his report on 3 falsely accused Canadians tortured abroad was given to this government. They ignored it, did nothing. Why would Canadians believe it will be different with the torture of Afghan detainees? After prorogation failed to make it go away, all Canadians see are excuses to buy time and bury the issue. Isn't the Prime Minister just using this respected jurist's good name to buy time and then ignore him all over again?
The Honourable Minister of Justice. Order.
The member is completely wrong on this. Mr. Iacobucci is a jurist who possesses specific experience and expertise in the area of documents, Mr. Speaker. These are documents already reviewed by nonpartisan public servants, Mr. Speaker, but to add to the comfort level that possibly the honourable member can have, Mr. Justice Iacobucci will have a look at this work. He will work as expeditiously as possible, Mr. Speaker, but it's a big job. We should let Justice Iacobucci do his work.
The Honourable Member for Ajax Pickering.
I don't question Justice Iacobucci's credentials. I question a government that ignores his reports. Justice Iacobucci, O'Connor, and others have issued recommendations to this government to stop torture. This government ignored it, did nothing. That's the issue. Now they've set up a process to use this justice's good name, and we're supposed to believe they won't just ignore him all over again. This government has spent all of its time on how to spin torture and none on the recommendations that stop it from happening again. Stop spinning, stop the damage control, and call a full public inquiry so we can get the truth.
Over the last week, 2 issues have sort of been on the fore. One is Afghan detainees. And many of you might be aware that the government is turning this over to Justice Iacobucci and asking for him to provide comment on what documents should or should not be released. Well, there's a bit of a hiccup here, and that is it's not the first time the government has turned to Justice Iacobucci. I've been after this government now for literally years to get them to implement Justice Iacobucci's first report, which deals with critical oversight issues, making sure that our RCMP and other intelligence agencies are accountable, and that the 3 individuals who were tortured in Syria as a result of faulty Canadian intelligence receive an apology and compensation. So it's a little hard to believe, after they've ignored him once, that this isn't just yet another stalling tactic, and that's deeply concerning. Because if they punt this issue down the road, it's yet another example of government really burying itself in secrecy, trying to deny answers to people, and really preventing public institutions from getting at the truth. Whether or not it's the Information Commissioner, the RCMP Public Complaints Commissioner, this issue, shutting down Parliament, they seem to like to shut down dissent wherever possible and shut down questions. That's deeply concerning. There was one bright spot, and it happened yesterday, and that's finally a vote to kill the 10%ers that have been bombarding ridings all over Canada, really essentially junk mail campaign flyers that parties have been using to push their own party's interests. I've been pushing for this to end for a long time. It wastes over $10 million. In fact, when you figure in the postage, it's more like 20 or 30 million every single year. I think people have been sick of these. They recognize that they're just pure campaigning pieces. That information is then used for sign lists. It's used to raise money. So it's clearly contravening the rules. I think it was a major victory to see that stopped. Next up is going to be all of these conservative advertisements. They're spending, I think, somewhere near $250 million on bombarding the airways with these wasteful ads that are nothing but self-promotion and campaign material. In a time of austerity, in a time of Canada's largest deficit, the last thing we can afford is this kind of nonsense.